Coogs house. Yes, in football, Houston knocked off defending Big 12 champ Arizona State in their house. They ranked for the first time since 2022 on Sunday morning, and I'm telling you, the basketball program had a bigger weekend.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs, daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston Morning teacher and coach, Parker Ainsworth. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater who came to stop by, thank you for making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day, or in this case, maybe your second listen. This is a bonus edition of Locked On Cougs. If you're joining the conversation and you don't know what to say, tell us in the comments down below if you were able to make it out to watch the scrimmage in Rosenberg against Mississippi State, or if you're waiting for Lehigh a week from Monday night. Today's show is brought to you by GameTime. Best places, last place, lowest price guaranteed. But more on all that fun later. I do want to talk about the recruiting weekend that was, and as much as we can talk about the scrimmage exhibition that happened on Sunday night as well. But Houston men's basketball had a really, really stellar weekend in a way that I think we won't fully unveil until days and weeks from now. However, we have to start with the big recruiting weekend because three guys, Arafan Diane, Ikenna Alozie, and Caleb Holt, who are 5-star, 4-star, 5-star respectively, were all on campus, all visiting together. All of Houston and their top couple of schools left, and it's a real consideration that those three guys all end up at Houston next season. I want to go through one by one, kind of think how these guys benefit. But Arafan Diane is the top center in the class. He is listed at 7 foot 285. He has had some weight fluctuation. Looks like he's in better shape now than I've seen him before. But he is big. He is strong. He is long. Originally from Guinea, he now plays at Iowa United Prep and also plays for the Adidas club team, Iowa United, in that region. He's super fluid, and he's getting called African Jokic, which I feel like a nod to his offensive abilities and his size in conjunction. But honestly, Arfan Diane is kind of his own guy. He does have great vision. He can be an offensive hub, but in Jokic's older years, he's kind of gotten to where with guys being hurt around him, he's more selfish and just has to score. John, it's not that he's selfish. I mean it that way, but he's looking to score more. He passes off of the scoring. He can throw nice passes. He passes off of the scoring. He's got such great touch, great fluidity for a guy that big. It's really, really impressive. On kind of the inverse, Ikenna Alozie plays like I imagine if you combine the Tasmanian Devil and the bulldog from the Sandlot, or the big dog from you put those two together. That's kind of how Ikenna Alozie plays. 6'2", buck 85, combo guard that is impossible to stand in front of, impossible to get past, and it's just a bully, just a big, strong bully. Great defender, and really just doesn't have all the finesse of like a Kyrie Irving, but has every bit of the ability to score because he's just so strong. He's just so quick. He's hard to stay in front of. Caleb Holt is the 5-star top shooting guard in the class. He's from Alabama originally, but now preps at Prolific Prep, which is in Florida, and it throws me off every time. I still think of it as being in California. It's in Florida now. And he's 6'5". If you told me 6'6", I'd probably believe you. Pretty long, just very smooth, fluid. He's strong, but he's really more about his ability to move through and around gaps, right? And he's a great athlete, really, really explosive when he wants to get up to the rim. I think what's interesting to me about him is he wants to defend at a high level. Like most guys have that kind of an offensive skill set, don't also want to turn on defense. Caleb Holt clearly is super competitive. He really does. What I think is interesting about all three of these guys, first of all, is that John is a 5-star. Alozie is a high-end 4-star. Spent some time as a 5-star, as a high-end 4-star now, though. And Caleb Holt is a high-end 5-star. That is, at some points, a combination of three guys for 15 stars recruiting on campus this weekend, right? That's cream of the crop. That's blue blood stuff, guys. Like we talk about last year's class being the best of all time. for the University of Houston with Kingston Fleming, Isaiah Harwell, Chris Cenac, and Bryce Jackson. This is in the same vein. Was on campus in one single weekend, and they all have Houston in their top couple of schools. And frankly, in a 3-on-3 kind of way, they all complement one another. They could play together, that is to say, right? It's not like one is taking the other's minutes, or there's none of that kind of competition amongst these three guys. Now, I also think what's interesting about these three guys specifically is there's a natural mutual benefits relationship with the way they play basketball in University of Houston. The one that sticks out the most is Arafan Diane, 7 foot, 285, but with strength coach Alan Bishop, the conditioning program, the defensive coaching of Sampson and them on staff, he can really turn into he can make his weaknesses strengths without ever touching and having to infringe upon not natural, he's worked for him, the offensive gifts he's got, right? That marriage of teaching a Houston big man defense and getting in Houston big man shape with this program, with the stuff that Gian's already got, you're legitimately, it might be 2 years from now, it might be 3 years from now, because it's going to take some time to marinate. You're looking at a top pick in the draft kind of guy. Like put those together, that's that kind of good. And at 7 foot, that kind of good just doesn't just happen. It's impressive. Alozie is incredibly tough. Again, I mentioned Tasmanian Devil and the dog from Sandlot put together. You just can't stay in front of it. It's too aggressive, right? He doesn't have the refinement of the Marcus Sassers, or we saw Jamal Shedd add to his game over his time at Houston, or any number of Houston guards, right, that have added these layers to their games. I think that with working with Hollis Price, the Houston staff, I think you could see Alozie add a lot of that to his game, right? Alozie is a combo guard, a 6'2" combo guard. We've seen Houston roll out with 6'2" and 6'3" shooting guards that play off the ball all the time, right? Now, that would not be uncommon. What Houston's done, though, is turn those guys into guys with real shots at the league, right? LJ Cryer has bounced around some. Last I saw, he was kind of on then off, then on then off. I forget which one we're on with the Golden State Warriors. But obviously, Marcus Sasser is a 6'3" shooting guard playing in Detroit right now. And it's a different skill set, but Houston helped elevate his game to the professional level. Jamal Shedd's a 6 foot, 6'1", and he's listed as a point guard, and he passed the ball like a point guard, but Houston had him score too, like a combo guard. And frankly, in a similar vein, is like super jacked in the shoulders and all that. Like, you could see some of those same kind of things with the dog mentality, right? That Houston can help elevate Alozie's game. Caleb Holt, same kind of way. You've seen Houston have the Quentin Grimeses. Sherman Mark left, but a similar kind of like great traditional two-guard kind of frame and build, right? Caleb Holt fit this very well. Emmanuel Sharp's kind of going through that right now at 6'3", but same kind of trajectory. The way these guys all would fit into the program and marinate in the things Houston does well would be impressive. And they were taking their pictures. They post them on Instagram. Go find these guys. It's Arafan Diane, Ikenna Alozie, and Caleb Holt all post on Instagram their pictures from their visit. Now, it's official visits, uncommitted, but those guys clearly enjoyed it. They got to enjoy campus after watching a big-time football win on Saturday night. They went to the scrimmage, so last exhibition game on Sunday, or at least Caleb Holt did. And I don't know that he was officially on his visit still at that point, but he was there. And just they got to see what real practices are like and real work is like, and they were excited by that. And man, if you get those kind of talented players with this staff excited about putting in the work, that's another all-timer class put together. And you got a couple of those put together in a row. The Houston thing, man, it just keeps going. It just keeps going. Speaking of keeping going, there was that whole exhibition scrimmage thing that happened but wasn't televised. We'll talk about it 1 second. Before we get to that, today's show is brought to you by our buddies over GameTime. Best place to get live tickets, lowest price guaranteed. College football's back. It's actually winding down. College basketball's also back, about to be back. I'm telling you, use GameTime for tickets because getting tickets can feel sometimes more of a battle in the game itself, but it doesn't have to be that way when you go to GameTime. GameTime's got, you can toggle it over and see what the price is with all fees included. You can find the best value deal. You can find what it's going to look like from that seat in row. If you can find it cheaper in that section and row on some other site, they'll credit you back 110% of the difference. It is a great place. Make sure you get the best deal. There are deals right now. You can get lower bowl, 5 rows off the sideline, on the sideline, for like less than 40 a ticket to Houston versus West Virginia next weekend. You can get into the end zone in the first dozen rows or so for like $25 a ticket on GameTime. And you can take this. We're going to buy college football tickets with GameTime. Download the app today and create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Return to apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege. LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download GameTime today. Park Rangers locked on Coogs here. And listen, Coach Sampson said not to be saying any dumb stuff after that one on Sunday night. So I'm going to try and keep this part brief. But I will say shout out to my golfing buddies in North Carolina. If you know on that one. I look at this scrimmage, and admittedly, I have talked to a handful of people that were there, gone back and forth. I've also seen the clips, seen what some people also record on their cell phones and whatever and all that. Sent back and forth some with some folks, some people on the inside, some on the outside that were there, and all of that. I do think, though, there's a lot to pull from this game, including that Houston had a terrible shooting night. Terrible, and still won. Terrible shooting night. The quote from Kelvin Sampson in the post game was, "We couldn't hit the water if we fell out of the boat." Houston was 3 of 20 from 3. All 3 of those makes from Miles Uzan. He was 3 of 6, but Emmanuel Sharp was 0 of 7. Chris Cenac was 0 of 2. Houston shot the ball 62 times. Now, the offense rebounded 19 of their 40 misses, but Houston shot the ball 62 times and only allowed the Mississippi State Bulldogs to shoot 40 times. What's worth, Houston missed as many shots as Mississippi State took. I would also say it's impressive in a game where you played freshman Kingston Flemings. We'll get to him in a second. Freshman Kingston Flemings for 29 minutes and freshman Chris Cenac for 29 minutes to only have 9 turnovers. Those guys had the ball in their hands a lot. I think speaks to how far those guys have already progressed. I also think it's interesting that in this year's iteration of the team, you lose Jawan Roberts and LJ Cryer. You got to find ways to replace their production. Milos, Manuel, and JoJo each took over 14 shots. JoJo Tugler led the team in points. And that's just a new feeling. JoJo was 5 of 6 from the free throw line. He didn't miss, but he shot a 3. I thought it was interesting that I got several people comment he got fed in ways that felt more like other Houston posts have gotten fed. He was not just getting rib running lobs, nice little hooks and stuff like that, which is intriguing. It also felt like, for one source, that there was more space inside when he had the ball because of the way that Chris Cenac plays along the perimeter and further away from the basket. There's less bodies in his way. He could really go to work in a different kind of way. It's a different role than playing off of Jawan Roberts was, obviously, but you have to also remember that this is all the JoJo Tugler that spent the offseason rehabbing an injury. He had surgery, right? He spent a lot of June and July in a boot, right? Like, this is a guy that just kind of is getting back into it. And he's already leading the team in points, right? Now, on the other side, defensively, they played a kid in Hubbard that had 18 points. But he was second in the SEC in points per game last season and was the highest returning scorer in the SEC. It took him 16 shots. No one else on the team broke double figures. And that's almost half of their attempts, for what it's worth. Kingston started on him and was a starter in this game and looked apart. When I've gotten to watch them practice some, it's interesting to see the level at which Kingston Flemings defends. I think a lot of people wondered about if it was going to be Isaiah Harwell or Mercy Miller, or who that 5th starter was going to be, the 3rd guard starter was going to be. You're going to see it being Ramon Walker, you play big. Jason McCarty, you play big. And Kingston has kind of nailed down that role because he defends at such a high level. A true, like, gets through screens, fights to throw his hips in the way, cuts off drivers. He defends at such a high level. In part, he's very quick. He is also very smart. Defends at a very, very high level. In the post game, Manuel Sharp gave him credit for being super selfless too. So playing with 2 point guards out there in both Milos and Kingston led to a lot of ball movements, selfless basketball. I think a couple people I talked about how much the ball moved, a lot of passing involved as well. Hadn't really put it together with the fact they're playing with 2 point guards. It's going to move around a lot, right? And look, I think this is a team that's going to learn a lot throughout the season. One guy texted from the inside was saying, this is a program I pull out to make sure I don't get it wrong here. But said they learned a lot and got progress and improvement in areas we wanted, and we're going to continue to grow in a couple of other ones. And I think that this first couple months here is all about growth, right? It's all about moving things forward. I think that that's a big deal. I think when you think about how young this team is, both in terms of little experience, right? Redshirt freshman Cardi, sophomore Mercy Miller, the 3 freshmen that figured to play a lot. We'll see if they redshirt Bryce Jackson or not, but that's a lot of youth right there. And then even with Milos Emmanuel and JoJo, those are guys asking to play new roles, right? This season, they're young in that role. They're learning that role. Emmanuel's kind of the guy now. He's been sixth man. He's been the extra defensive bulldoggy kind of guy. He was a catch and shoot guy last year. Now it's like, no, we need you to score 16, 17 points. And I think he's up for the task, but it's just a new configuration. This is a team that might lose some games in November and December. And before anyone jumps on me for that, I don't think it matters. They were 4-3 last year, and they made it to 60 seconds away from a national championship. And frankly, like, we're on top of the country for a lot of that run, right? Like, I think that this is a team that if you trust the system, trust the process, understand where they can be, actually might be ahead of schedule if you're already trusting Kingston Flemings that much, trusting Chris Cenac that much. And if this team's ahead of schedule, Big 12's in trouble. Everyone needs to watch out. And I am excited about basketball season. Lehigh, a week from Monday night, breaking all things down here, breaking all things down Houston Cougar football as well each and every day. The Locked On Coogs is the primary Locked On podcast. Now, your team every day. Hit subscribe to the bus, and we're live. Go Coogs.